Hey everybody. Okay, so this is 5.2b. So this is also in section 5.2, but this part I'm only talking about properties of congruence and properties of equality. You will use a lot of these when we do proofs for triangles, proofs of congruent triangles. Okay? So there are three basic properties of congruence. You got reflexive, symmetric, and transitive property. Start with reflexive property. This one is usually the easiest one. Reflexive property, it says for any triangle ABC, triangle ABC is congruent to ABC. And what is this exactly doing? It's saying that anything is congruent to itself. And it didn't have to be just triangles. It could be angles. Angle B is congruent to angle B. It could be segments. Segment SR is congruent to SR. See that? You could do it with numbers. 2 plus 3 equals 2 plus 3. See how it's exactly the same? You could do it with congruence or with equals. Nothing got changed. No letters got rearranged. That's reflexive property. Symmetric property. If ABC is congruent to DEF, then triangle DEF is congruent to ABC. So what happened here? What happened is they just switch. And when you switch it, you always switch around your equal sign or congruent sign. Okay? So take ABC and move it to the right side. And then DEF got moved over to the left. See that? DEF, ABC. Again, the letters don't switch around. The whole object. You could do it with angles again. So if I said that angle, I don't know, if I said angle C is congruent to angle F, and I use a symmetric property, that means I flip it around and say that means angle F is congruent to angle C. Or if I did it with segments, let's say I said segment PQ is congruent to segment RS. Well, symmetric property says RS is congruent to PQ. The letters did not flip. I took the whole segment and I flipped it on the other side. I didn't change PQ to QP. Don't do that, okay? Transitive property. This is the fun one. I'm gonna use my highlighter. So you got triangle ABC is congruent to triangle DEF. DEF is congruent to triangle JKL. So as a student said in my one class, I think she nailed it. She said, since you got triangle ABC congruent and JKL, they're both congruent to the same triangle, then they must be congruent to each other. See that? The yellow triangle DEF, that is their common link. But she called them siblings. She said you got three siblings. And the reason being is because you got the first sibling is brothers with DEF. And then JKL, that third sibling is brothers with DEF. So ABC and JKL, yo, they related. You feel me? ABC is related to DEF. JKL related to DEF. So since they're both related to the same guy, guess what? They related to each other because DEF is their common link. It's their brother in common. Okay? Let's try some. So if angle 5 is congruent to angle 8, then angle 8 is congruent to 5. That would be the symmetric property because all they did was flip. Remember, symmetric means you just flip them around. Number 2, GH is congruent to GH. See how nothing changed? And there's only one item here. That's reflexive property. It's congruent to itself. Number 3, if GH is congruent to JK and JK is congruent to LM, then GH is congruent to LM. Y'all recognize that? That's the transitive property. See that GH and LM are related because both of them related to the same guy. They both related to JK. Number 4, let's see if you're going to get got. X plus Y is equal to YZ. I mean XZ, I can't read. And XZ equals 8. So X plus Y, XY plus YZ equals 8. It's transitive property again. Your brother that they have in common, their common sibling is XZ. Your XY and YZ equals XZ. Your 8 is equal to XZ. So those two, they equal to each other. Number 5, if 3 plus 7 equals 10, then 10 equals 3 plus 7. Symmetric property. They just flipped. The 3 plus 7 moved to the other side, and the 10 moved to the other side. Okay? How about if you fill in the blank, given which property to use? So, symmetric property. If PQ is congruent to ST, then. So remember, symmetric means to flip. We're doing this. So what goes in the blank? That means ST is congruent to PQ. Reflexive. Reflexive means same exact thing. Angle ABC is congruent to angle ABC. Do not mix any letters up. Transitive. If angle 2 is congruent to 5 and angle 2 is congruent to 8, then use my colors. We got angle 2 congruent to 5, angle 2 congruent to 8. Look at that. The green and the blue are both congruent to the yellow. The yellow is your common sibling. Transitive property says the yellow and blue, the green and blue are congruent to each other. 5 is congruent to 8. Symmetric, that's a flip. Remember, you flip around the equal sign. You don't flip around any plus signs or nothing like that. AB plus DF is equal to FB. So do the flip. Take that, flip it. Bam. FB equals AB plus DF. Symmetric property. Last one, transitive. If P angle, I can't talk. If measure angle P plus Q is equal to S. Notice every time I go past the equal sign, I change colors. Measure angle S equals 180. See how angle S is your common sibling? So the angle P plus angle Q got to be equal to 180. Transitive property. Okay, properties of equality. I'm going to go through these kind of fast because you guys seem to do pretty good with them on bell work. And also, you use these anytime you solve algebra problems. Okay? If you have an algebra problem, you add something to both sides. That's addition. Addition property. Add the same thing on both sides. Subtraction property. Subtract the same thing on both sides. Multiplication. Multiply both sides by the same number. And division. Divide both sides by the same number. Substitution. When you substitute, another word for substitute is to replace. So if you have an equation, let's say you got 2x minus y equals 50, but you happen to know that x is 32, then you can take 32 and replace it where you see x. So then I could rewrite this problem. Instead of 2x, I'll put 2 times 32 minus y equals 50. That's how substitution goes. Okay? Distributive property. Distributive property is when you take something on the outside of the parentheses and you multiply it by everything in the parentheses. You only do this on one side, so not to be confused with multiplication property. Let's just try some. So number 1, if 2y minus 4 equals 20, then 2y equals 24. That's addition property. How come? In order to go from here to here, you would have had to do a plus 4 on each side. Ooh, I cannot write on this screen. Plus 4. And then those 4s would have been gone, and then you left with 2y equals 24. Number 2, if 6 parentheses 5n minus 2 equals negative 3, then 30n minus 12 equal negative 3. Distributive property, not to be confused with multiplication. If it was multiplication, then the negative 3 would have also been multiplied by 6. Multiplication is when you multiply both sides of the problem by the same number. But the negative 3 did not change. Only the left side changed because we had to get rid of parentheses. Number 3, if 4x plus 7 equals y and x equals negative 2, then 4 parentheses negative 2 plus 7 equals y. Substitution property. Wherever you see an x, you can replace it with negative 2. How? Number 4, if 3x over 5 equals 12, then 3x equals 60. That would be multiplication. Why? Because both sides got multiplied by 3. And it's hard to see because the way it's typed. I'm going to scroll down a little bit. So imagine if it was written like this, equal 12. So if I multiply by 5, those two 5s divide out. Whatever I do to one side, I do it to the other. So I'm left with 3x equal 12 times 5 is 60. That's multiplication property. And last, number 5, if 25n equal 100, then n equals 4, division, because you would have had to divide both sides by 25. And then 100 divided by 25 is 4. Okay? I think this is the last slide. So this is an algebra problem that's already been worked out step by step. So for each step, you have to tell which property it took to get from the previous one to this one. So this is the original problem, which is given. So when it's given, that's what you put. So for your original problem, that's given. Now, next step, to go from the given to step 1, look what happened. We multiply 4 times 3 and 4 times 4x. Got 12 and 16x. 52 minus 4x stayed exactly the same. This is distributive property. I hope you didn't think it was multiplication. Next step. So step 2. So look at step 1 and determine what happened to get to step 2. 12 plus 16x equal 52 minus 4x. If you add 4x, see that? If you add 4x on each side, those disappear. 16 plus 4x is 20x. So I add it. So that's addition property. Now, step 3, you got to look at step 2 to determine how you get to step 3. So if I look at step 2, 12 plus 20x, and now all they say is 20x, that's because that 12 got subtracted. That's how we got 40. 52 minus 12 is 40. So that's subtraction property. And lastly, step 4, look at step 3, and you will see that you will have to divide by 20. Goodness, this pen is acting up. Divide by 20, and then you get x equals 2. So that's division property. Basically, whatever math you did, that's your property. Okay? And that's it. That's the end of the note. So if you are done, just submit it on Google Classroom so that you can get credit. If you wrote it on paper, you know the deal. Take a picture and submit it to me. And if you're having trouble, please send me a message. See ya.